Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing yet another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror comedy from Brazil, Portuguese language, English subs, released in the year 2018, directed by Fabrizio Bittar, and this film is called Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary. So Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary is about a group of friends who have a YouTube channel called Ghoul Hunters. Now Ghoul Hunters, it's kind of like Ghostbusters. They go out to the paranormal entities, they're going to exorcise the demons, and they're going to save the day. But unfortunately the viewership is down. A lot of people saying it's more of the same sort of stuff, it's getting very tiresome, so they have to come up with a new idea. Now this team actually get a new idea in the form of a high school. Now a principal comes up to this team and says that a lot of the students in this high school are massive fans of the Ghoulbusters, and they want the Ghoulbusters to come to the high school because a lot of the students believe that this high school is haunted by Bloody Mary that resides in one of the toilets. And so the principal doesn't believe it's haunted, but he wants to give the students peace of mind, so he invites the Ghoul Hunters with the salary to come and exorcise this demon and basically put everyone's mind at ease. But unfortunately when they get to the high school, this is not going to be like any other job, because it actually appears that there's a lot more truth to the Bloody Mary than they first thought, which is going to lead them down a very bloody path. So what that path is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary. After seeing that title, I really hadn't had too much interest in this movie. It's been around on Stan, which again is another Australian streaming service, and so I'd seen this for the longest time, but the title really put me off. It was a very silly title, but when I realised it was a Brazilian horror film, I thought, why not go and check it out? This is a South American horror, so you guys know that South America is very dear to me, especially the horror genre, and so to see Brazil come out with another horror film, they have actually made some fairly recent horror movies. They have a very rich history in horror, and to see them making more and more movies is actually quite encouraging. So coming into Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary, I was prepared to push that title aside to see what Brazil could produce, and I was hoping that it was going to be another addition to the more recent impressive horror films that Brazil have actually come up with. And I will say that pushing the title aside, this movie was surprisingly competent. It was actually a very well-made movie, and I definitely think as though if you are a fan of horror comedies, Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary is definitely something that is right up your alley, because this is a film, much like the title, that's very silly, but it's very self-aware. It's not taking itself seriously, and it's paying homage to the early Peter Jackson and all those splatter comedies that everyone really likes. And so if you like those types of movies, chances are you're going to really like Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary. This is a film that has a very big budget behind it. Well, if it doesn't have a very big budget, it actually seemed like it had a big budget. So considering the title, this movie actually was very competent in its production. I thought as though the costume design and the special effects were phenomenal, and the gore effects and the bloodshed in this movie I thought was second to none. It was a very, very bloody film, so it does deliver its promise as far as bloody violence. So the splatter aspect of the movie, it really understands it. And there was also some moments in the film that I thought were very funny, and I thought as though the demons looked really good. And so the whole element of this movie has been done before, so it felt like a homage to those classic films. And so I definitely feel as though there's going to be a lot of appreciation for this movie. So there are a few problems I had with the film, is that yes, it is very fun, but I felt as though it was trying to be a little bit too funny. It felt like it knew it was funny, but it was going over the top, and so it comes to a point where a lot of the comedy doesn't really work because it's exhausting itself. And so I thought it would have been better if it had a really funny moment here and it just kind of paced itself a little bit more. It goes for an hour and 44 minutes, and I just definitely feel as though it was trying to be too funny too often. And then so a lot of the comedy doesn't work because I just feel as though it was exhausting itself way too quickly, and so it does become slightly irritating to a point where I felt like, okay, you are funny in some aspects, but you're trying to be too funny. You're trying to push that envelope a little bit too much, and it's coming on a little bit too forced. So I thought the script could have been a little bit relaxed, because the movie was a little bit too long for its own good. And that's ultimately where the biggest problem lies, is that this film was way too long. I felt as though it could have been an 80-minute movie. It would have been a lot better, and it would have condensed that element of comedy a lot more. So it's too long for its own good, and the script really wears thin, and I just didn't feel as though I appreciated the comedy as much as I really wanted to, because there are moments that are really out of left field, very reminiscent to Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. So there are moments that will make you just scratch your head feeling, thinking to yourself, what the hell did I just watch? And so there's one particular scene involving a fetus that I thought was absolutely fantastic, and another scene involving a toilet, which I'm not going to give away, but that was absolute craziness. And again, that's what reminded me of the classic splatter films of yesteryear that really paved the way for these more modern films. And so Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary, it sounds like a ridiculous film. It is a ridiculous film, but surprisingly it was a lot better than I anticipated. It is yet another example of how good Brazil Brazil can be. And so as far as blood and horror is concerned, I thought it was really effective. But as far as the comedy is concerned, this is where it lets itself down a bit, because it didn't really know how to actually space out that comedy in a way that it didn't feel exhausted. And so it's a little bit too long for its own good. It started to outstay its welcome, but I will say it's definitely worth it if you come across it. If you are a fan of splatter gore movies, there are some really effective scenes, and it's definitely, you could do a lot worse with. So overall, for Ghost Killers vs Bloody Mary, going to give this one 2.5 stars. Too long for its own good, but fortunately, definitely worth at least one viewing. Alright guys, that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.